Hello, Internet! It's time for another alcohol-fueled Wednesday's cereal. It's been a while. Enjoy. Much like I will. First off the hat is Amazing Spider-Man. This is a very Sandman-centric issue that takes a very interesting look at the idea of Sandman and is pressing this whole ends of the earth thing, Otto Octavius plan dealy thing. My gosh, you know the drill. If you're not reading Amazing Spider-Man, you're doing it wrong. So try again. I'll begin my look of Avengers vs. XMen round 2 with a select reading of the recap of the previous issue. Ahem. The Phoenix Force is returning to Earth. It is a destructive entity of cosmic proportions, seeking a host to channel its power. The X-Men believe it will bring about the rebirth of the endangered mutant race. The Avengers believe it will destroy all life on the planet. Both sides believe that Hope Summers, the mutant messiah, is the Phoenix chosen vessel. The Avengers have come to the X-Men's island, home of Utopia, to take Hope into custody. The X-Men are determined to stop them, at any cost. You know this is serious because the entire thing is written in all caps. So they're shouting. So there you go. I will also say that there has been a significant roster change since the last issue in this little roster Rio they put out there. The X-Men seem to have magically doubled their ranks. Kudos. It's a key move in a pinch situation. We'll see if it gets them through this next act. There's a classic line delivered by the Rulk right after Colossus snaps himself onto the Hellcarrier. First punch thrown in this epic war. It says, "You're the strongest there is on Utopia? I'm the strongest there is, period." Oh, snap! And that's how you know it's on. Alright, well, they're keeping the momentum with this issue. It's big dropout, brawl, fight. You don't really see much more, but it's what you came for, right? So if you like people punching each other in the face, it's for you. Right. If you've been down on Uncanny X-Force, it's time to come back up. The art is good. It's not where it started. But they have Noto on art, who's someone I haven't seen before and does an awesome job. This has the best Deadpool moment I've read in I don't know how long. And I have an even funnier line by Phantom X thrown in there, and it's also a one-off, so definitely check out this issue. It's interesting take with the Age of Apocalypse Nightcrawler and Iceman, and it's a nice tight little comic one-shot. They don't do that often. One-shot. Try it out one-shot. Venom 16 is getting the comic back on track, back from where it was from the Circle of Four, bringing in the Avengers element to do something new. In a transport trying to bring the Human Fly to another area, things get crazy when the Hobgoblin shows up and you start seeing all these weird, crazy elements of the comic starting to come together, and it just makes for really interesting reading. It was really satisfying because it felt like this comic forgot where it was going, and now it's getting back on track. I think that's why they put in a train. It's like a metaphor, yo. It's deep. Yeah, I would really recommend, if you felt like this comic was floundering, to jump back on here, because I definitely understand where you've been coming from if you thought that. If you haven't been checking this out, definitely one I'd recommend trying out a trade of the first one, because it's a crazy cool concept for Venom that they're doing and making something more of the whole symbiote idea. Instead of big muscle-bound guy, gets even scarier with crazy ooze stuff, and making something more of the idea of symbiosis and using that to tell a story. Yeah. Next up, Punisher 10, more aptly Part 2 of the Omega Effect. And we're seeing this come to a head. Most of this is a lot of crazy banter between Punisher, well, really just Spider-Man 2 Punisher, let's be frank. um, yeah, it's really interesting to see how this all comes together, but I feel like they go through so much and deal with a lot of gangs in a lot of way, and the way they deal with it feels like it should be this big thing for all the build-up that's happened to Daredevil, but I don't think it's going to have any impact at all, because like the idea of a roster, like any numbers that AIM or Hydra have, even as far as the amount of bases, is never really stated. And so like the idea of them making a dent in these nameless whatever wandering enemy entities just kind of falls flat when it's like there's legions of them, so if you take out even 100, it's like, so what? So yeah, but crazy interesting cliffhanger. It'll be fun to see where that goes, though we know nothing too drastic can happen because nobody's gonna die that matters. But yeah, definitely. It's fun rides, so if you've been on board with Daredevil, I'd really recommend getting the Avenging Spider-Man Punisher that go into it, and if you're reading Avenging Spider-Man or Punisher, you could probably leave it alone. I don't know, it really seems like this should have just been held within Daredevil and given a little more resonance within that series. I think it would have more pop. Still a fun read, but feels like there should be more going on. The Ninja Turtles micro series Leonardo, they're going through the Turtles and they've saved Leonardo for last. This is an interesting kind of harken back to the original one of these, back from the 80s when they were doing this, because the Leonardo one, much like this one, was the only one to actually truly tie in directly to actual story arc going on, whereas the others were actually one-shots, and that's kind of the way this is as well. Unless they're really playing with us, this is also really the first appearance of the Foot Clan, and the Shredder, who isn't really as verbose as you'd expect him. He's dressed just like a normal ninja like the rest, assuming that's where they're going with it. They might be playing on that expectation level, and I kind of hope they are, because otherwise it'd be kind of flat. But this is also interesting because it's essentially one long action scene, and that's really the entire comic, which is kind of interesting for what they put in for one comic, and it all being one drawn-out action sequence with a few little asides. Also, I don't know how to feel about it. They kind of paint Leonardo as slightly psychotic, where he's having these flashes of like feudal Japan and a family, and the idea that they killed his mother when they're just killing some random hobo who's in a building that he happens to be fighting in. Really don't know how to take that. They also made a weird connection that it's probably always been there. I just never thought of it because I grew up with the Ninja Turtles, so some things you hear and it just doesn't register in a way until you're forced to look at it again. The idea of the foot soldiers being like foot soldiers, like an army, I guess they made that more clear as an idea when the Shredder character comes up. He's not just another foot soldier. I don't know. It seemed like a cool little moment to me. To anyone else, that's probably like, well, duh, but I don't know. Mental adjustment on that and a cool little interplay. I don't know why I never really connected that dot before, but there you go. I probably just spoiled the hell out of that comic, but it's totally worth checking out. The art is a little different. I imagine some people will be kind of adverse to it, but once you get into the action, it really actually starts working. I actually think if you took out a little bit of the detail, it actually would make for a really cool animation style. So, I don't know, kind of an interesting look at it, but definitely this Turtles run has been amazing. Kind of takes a lot of what's made the Ninja Turtles work throughout the years and kind of it's making the ultimate Ninja Turtles, if you will. So check that out. Batman Beyond 3 is out, and as you can see, he is tucked away here in the corner. This really focuses on the Superman Beyond bit in the front, written by J.T. Krull, and it is possibly the best Superman story I have read in a long, long while. It's a really interesting take of like the future and once humanity kind of catches up in some ways, and how Superman feels irrelevant without Clark Kent, and it really says so much about Superman with kind of the absence of so many things that makes the Superman mythos. And I found that to be far more interesting than most anything's Superman. So a little bit of bias there, but for those of you who wouldn't be coming at Batman Beyond normally, maybe that's a reason to go pick up at least this issue. Just a different sort of take and something really interesting. Plus, you get the part 3 of the jail Justice League story from the future and the Batman Beyond story going on with Stan Dog and the Jokers with Lana's brother, and it's I mean, yeah, it's a $3.99 book, but you're getting pages and you're getting comic for it, so completely justified. Captain Atom, and we're at the 8s. This is really crazy read. It's really interesting to see how JT Cruel is pushing this idea of a character that can physically do anything, how he's really only limited by his knowledge and his ability to work with himself. Like, in a lot of ways, he's his own greatest enemy in the fact that his powers are slowly killing him, but also in the fact that his only limitations are that he hasn't figured out how to overcome by himself, which means he can probably figure out a way past the power problem. It's such a weird concept, and the way that he's playing with it makes it kind of like the craziest of superhero comics, because you have the ultimate idea, like beyond Superman for powers, and yet more limited at the exact same time. Like it creates this weird toe in a way that just brings the character to this forefront of conception. And that, I mean, I can't imagine now any other way someone could write a super effective Captain Atom story. And I'm not sure too many have, except for the Wildstorm crossover, and that was more playing on the idea of heroics versus essentially war heroes. And this is more focusing what you can do with this character as opposed to a DC character transposed and just using one who is essentially disposable. This is probably one of the books that the whole DC relaunch has helped the most. Really, in a lot of ways, probably the only one, sans maybe Flash, which has been made a lot better in my opinion, but that's just because they kind of retooled some stuff, nothing that couldn't have been done otherwise. I don't know, I mean, if you're not picking up this book, it's probably not for everyone. It's definitely for people of, like, high concept sci-fi, so yeah. Manhattan Projects 2 comes around, and it goes and plays with comics' favorite dead-beaten horse, World War II, and this idea that a lot of progress was made on the backbone of illegitimate research performed by the fascists, and I don't know, maybe the art's holding back, something of this comic is not clicking for enjoyment for me, so I'm probably gonna kill it. I'm sure there's tons of advocates out there. I've not been feeling much of Jonathan Hickman's writing as of late, so there you be. Rachel Rising is also at 7, and they're breaking kind of this monotone cover deal, but we're starting to see a bit more movement with the supernatural in this issue, and it's an interesting take on the idea of someone coming back from the dead, yet still being limited by their body. Don't want to say too much more, otherwise that just kills the entire comic. So yeah, if you're not a fan of Terra Moore, I don't know, man. I don't know. So kudos all, have a good week, and I'll catch you soon with another comic review.